It was really good too. Nobody told me that they couldn't hear me except for Mike, my number one homie, looking out for me. Okay. My name is Amelie. You're watching the Soulestic Intelligence podcast and or listening to it. Today we're going to be talking about building trust and cohesion within your team group. All right. So hopefully that looks like that loaded. So kind of building on that, hopefully this lands and maybe I'll have to delete that other one and I'll just start this one over. But so let's chat about building trust. So let's talk about trust in the beginning. So trust is within itself, it's not a soft thing. This is something that having trust is a very hard technology that we have within our system to help us build. So with it, nothing is being held in it. So trust is like this frame that we have to really hold together relationships, either with our inner relationship or our external relationships. We're holding it together. We're trusting in ourselves. We're trusting, and it's this really deep keystone because if you think about it, a lot of people are like love and trust, but trust is not a feeling. Trust is this building block. It's almost like the cornerstone or this keystone that we need in order to connect with others. So if we're going to be collaborating, we need to be able to trust other people in order to get our whatever we're working on done. So just looking at the anatomy of trust, first and foremost, like I said, trust is not a feeling. Trust is a neurochemical and energetic agreement that you have between others. So if I was looking at a relationship that I have with a friend, hi Mike, you can hear me now. Nobody told me they couldn't hear me in my last one. But the neurochemical and energetic agreement that you have with others. So let's say that I have a friend and my friend is calling on me. How I respond to that friend over time is going to dictate how much trust they have in me. And so it starts, you've heard it before. You have this trust bubble of, I can trust my team this much, but beyond that, I don't trust them. Or I have this friend, I can trust them that much, but beyond that, I don't trust them. So given that it's this energetic agreement, hi, Moro Edits. Thank you for joining. It's me again from yesterday. Hi, Luca. Thank you for joining. So we have this trust that we're building. So when we're looking at that, the communication that happens with trust between me and my friend is our nervous systems are calibrating into one another. So when our nervous systems are calibrating into one another, that feeling of safety and security in that relationship, be it a friendship or an intimate partnership, you're going to be looking at how can I trust this person? How much do I trust this person? And your systems, your nervous systems are going to respond with each other. They're connecting on an energetic frequency with each other. And so you have this neurochemical plus energetic connection that is happening as you're forming these bonds together. So the anatomy of trust is built on several things. Oh, you speak in Spanish? I apologize. There are a few of us waiting at 3 a.m. I had it set for noon. I had an interview earlier today. So trust is built on consistency. That friend that is responding to my nervous system, they're looking at, are they consistent? If I call on them, are they going to show up? And it works both ways, right? If you're looking at, can I trust this person? How much do I trust this person? And are they are they safe and secure in my field, in my energetic field, as I'm developing this energetic agreement with them? Oh, good. Well, thank you for joining. I hope you can get something out of this then. So that consistency, the whenever I call on somebody, are they going to answer or are they going to ignore me? I look at that consistency as a form of trust. Okay, I can trust that person. There are friends that I've had for 30, 25, 30 years that I know I innately just trust them because we've been through the thick and thin of it together for such a long period of time that I don't even question our bond of trust or our bond that we have as friends together. So when I'm looking at those kind of bonds, that trust there is because even though there may be periods or months where we're not communicating, I can always call on them and they'll answer my call. They're consistent. And it doesn't mean that every day I'm talking to them. It could be every, once a year, whatever it is. So the next piece of trust is presence. So being present with them, and it doesn't necessarily mean physically. It could be, and we're looking at the relationship inside too. So don't confuse that. But we're looking at presence. Am I present in my system? Am I present with them? I speak it more or less. Well, you're doing a really good job typing it, Moro, so keep it up. So presence is an important thing. And then beyond that, attunement. Can I tune in to that person or the environment that I am in, or even into myself? Am I attuned? So when we're trusting, we're attuning to that frequency of trust into wherever that energy is going. And our central nervous systems are the key, like, negotiator here of where my trust is going or our trust is going. And then finally, the other thing that trust is built on is transparency. So if you're communicating with somebody, you determine the level of transparency that you have with them. Are they going to get Amelie light? Are they going to get Amelie deep? Like, which one are they looking at? How much do I trust people around me? My nervous system is telling me, you can trust this person this much. You can trust your audience this much. And so I'm looking at how transparent do I want to be? How much of me do I want to be seen? And if my nervous system is sitting in some sort of survival mechanism that if I talk too much or if I be too much, then there's a fear of that, because if I do that, then people are going to leave me. Or I might, our system doesn't know between the fear of abandonment and the fear of death. Like, to our nervous system, any fear is the same, like, it's receiving it in the same way. It doesn't like sit there and go, oh, but this is just abandonment, or oh, this is just a fear of death, this is just a fear of public speaking. Like, it all calibrates through a system in the same function as one or the other. So any fear that you have that is showing up in your system as survival is going to be recorded in your brain. The chemicals, the neurochemicals, are not saying, oh, but this is just a neurochemical for abandonment. It's not doing that. It's just, that's fear, trigger the survival mechanism response, and now your system is declaring itself as unsafe. There's something that we need to scan for. We don't trust the environment. We don't trust this person. We don't trust ourselves. So we're looking at having transparency and really building on that. So none of this is about perfection. Oh, no, Sin, thank you. None of this is about perfection. Like, we're not looking to have perfection be how we measure trust. We're looking at these key systems of consistency, presence, attunement, and transparency when we're trying to develop trust around us. So what we can say to ourselves is, we don't trust people who are always right. we trust people who are always real. And I listened to a comedian, and one of his kind of mottos, his life mottos is, I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. Like, I may be wrong about some of the information that I'm sharing, but I'm not lying about it because I'm speaking from a place of where I'm developing trust with my audience. Aw, thanks. Yeah, hit the like and subscribe button. All right, so when we're looking at the next piece here, we're going to look at what does it look like when trust is missing? Like, what are these key responses that we might start seeing pop up in our lives when we're having issues with trust? So we're living in a little bit of distrust. So some of the emotional intelligence details might be hypervigilance. Like I said, you're constantly scanning the environment for where are the threats? What is happening? How can I evade or fight or um, flee the situation, or maybe even fawn is another one where you're just kind of like, oh, okay, I'll just do whatever you say so that you don't recognize me. I'm just like this quiet yes man. So hypervigilance is one of the things that you're going to see pop up in your system when you don't trust. So think of a dangerous situation that you've been in, and maybe somebody is chasing you, or maybe you feel like somebody is after you. You're going to be really like, your fear response is heightened. That sense of what are the threats in my environment are there. Your emotional system is like on high alert. One of the other deficits that can happen if you don't have trust is over explaining or hiding. Like I said, when we start to like scan our environment and we feel threat, it doesn't have to be external, it could be internal too. Like, you may not even know that these things are coming up. But when you're over explaining to somebody of like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's only like, these are the reasons why. Like, you don't trust your words. You don't trust, and or maybe the fear of being seen, or the fear of being too much might be into play. And so now you're like hiding and not speaking up what your truth is, and or you might be over explaining things because your level of trust in yourself is suffering a little bit. So the other thing that shows up is the inability to express your needs through boundaries. And this happens to a lot of people who have a little bit more egoist traits. Some people call them like empath and narcissist. I don't. I call it egoist and narcissist because it goes in line with the Greek myth. And that is something that I changed recently because I find that empathy is a positive, I mean, there's shadowy aspects of it, but it is a positive competency for emotional intelligence. So I don't like to use it to muddy that explanation. But if you're unable to express your needs, you're unable to express your boundaries, you don't trust, one, yourself to set up like proper boundaries to protect yourself, and you don't have trust in others to, say, hey, I need this, without like that fear of abandonment popping up. I recently had to make a really strong declaration of saying, look, if you're not in devotion to me, and this is not going anywhere, I'm going to have to leave this situation because I respect myself way too much, and I trust myself that as I'm building my own queendom, that I'm not just going to drag anybody in that is not building it with me. And so there was a need. I expressed that need. I trusted in myself, of me telling myself, hey, you need to have a little bit more self-respect in this area, or you need to have a boundary here. Put it in writing. Get it figured out. So that was a building trust in myself, in my own internal system. The next one is shutting down during conflict. And this one is going to be like whenever anybody wants to bring something to you, like the confrontation aspect of it. There might be some conflict resolution stuff that you might need to work on as well. But if you're going to shut down during a conflict, it means that you're not trusting your own inner voice. And so we really want to develop that emotionally intelligent part of yourself where you're trusting yourself. The other emotional intelligence deficit is distrust in one's own intuition. So if your intuition is popping up and you're not listening to it, or you're not aligning with it, you're pushing it away, that distrust in your own intuition, it that's kind of silly. Like, we're our own life architects. Like, we're authoring our lives here. And our intuition is there to kind of help bolster the story. We trust you. Well, I appreciate that. But trusting yourself is most important for sure. Like, trust in yourself first. Because when you trust and have a really strong inner world, it gets sent, that energy is getting sent out into the world. It's broadcasting. I like to say it's kind of like a hologram or a holograph or whatever it's called, where like you're basically like playing a movie out in real time. So you're the author. That's why they call it authority of your life. So trusting in your own intuition is going to be one of those pieces that we'll get into when we talk about the flex of trusting. Some social intelligence. So emotional intelligence is more kind of in your inner sphere, whereas social intelligence is looking at the outward, looking at socially, who am I trusting out here? So when you see some social intelligence deficits, this could be in the workplace, it could be at school when you're working on a team project, the lack of team cohesion, meaning that people kind of parse out in these subgroups instead of collaborating all together. There's no real team cohesion. Now, I've seen many work environments where this is the case, where the people that are a part of the team, they'll kind of go off on their own, and they'll kind of create these like little cliques. And because that happens, there's no real social cohesion in those groups. And when that happens, then you're seeing a lot of distrust in others. So the next piece of social intelligence deficits is the defensive or manipulative communication. So I don't know if you've ever had any bosses that you bring something up to their attention and then it's immediately defensive communication. Oh, that's not me. I'm not taking ownership for that. And it can leave you feeling like I can't even trust my manager because they don't own their responsibility. They don't own their authority, and now I don't trust them. This can happen in your relationships, where if somebody says something and immediately it's like defensive, and then also this manipulative communication that comes at you, and you're like, I don't know why you're blaming me. I don't know why you're attacking me. I am just looking for a nice resolution. I'm just bringing these issues to you from the forefront. So social intelligence deficit could look like that. The inability to handle feedback. So anytime anybody gives you any criticism, doesn't matter what it is, if it's constructive criticism, if you're taking that and you're taking that in as like a criticism of yourself, instead of having that being a learning moment of, oh, I didn't notice that. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for the transparency. Like we said, it was part of our trust building block. Thank you for the transparency of showing me things that I can't see. So one of the cool things about learning about emotional and social intelligence is you have what's called the Johari window. And the Johari window is how you see yourself, how others see you, and kind of this blind spot. So we all have a blind spot. We have what others see in us, and then we have how we see ourselves, and then maybe the secret window where it's like only us see us, right? So we only know what our inner world is going on. But when it comes to seeing blind spots, what other people see in you, they'll give you that feedback. So if you're listening to that feedback and you're taking that in gratitude, as thank you so much for showing me parts of myself that I didn't see. If you're unable to do that, you're not trusting their sight. You're not trusting them as a mirror of you, giving you more insight to some of the things that are going on in your life that maybe need attention, but you didn't even know about it because, it's, you kind of get, what do they call it? I know with smelling, it's like you smelled it all the time, so now you can't smell it, like nose blind, but you can kind of be self blind, right? So being in communication with others, having these social relationships help to develop us a little bit more. So if you have an inability to handle feedback, that there is showing you that you're not trusting the sight of others. You're not trusting their communications. If you're saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that person, blamed me," or they're trying to manipulate me into making these decisions, there's a little bit of a trust deficit in that social relationship. So the other piece is sabotage of collaboration. So anytime that we have any collaboration, instead of trusting the collab, so maybe there's somebody on that team that you're like, oh, I don't like that person, and or maybe it's the leader, and you're like, I don't like the leader, like I don't trust them, whatever. Instead of giving your all to have a successful collaboration with the team, you sabotage by maybe not attending or like attending the meetings and not really giving your all into those meetings. Sabotage of collaboration could be arguing with your partner, your friend, and deliberately not doing something that you said that you were going to do, or even trying to tear down the thing that was built because now you feel like I'm an outsider, so I'm going to sabotage everything. I see this online quite a bit where people will have built communities of people and then somebody comes in and they start sabotaging it, saying that, the mission isn't the mission, spreading rumors, spreading lies, gossiping, trying to tear down whatever the collaboration is. So, sabotaging that is a lack of social intelligence in the realm of trust. And then finally, what we're going to look at is the rigid roles or no shared vulnerability. So if you're in this rigid role of, I just go to work, I don't talk to anybody, I go home, I don't meet up socially with anybody from work, and you kind of keep that distance with them, there's no real vulnerability in that. So if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody that has this rigid air about them, it's going to be difficult to kind of pierce through that. That's you. You're going to have a hard time being vulnerable and maybe connecting with other people. And there's that deficit is because like you don't trust them. Like I said earlier today, you're kind of dictating how much of you gets shown through in these relationships, and you determine, I don't trust you to handle the information that I'm going to give, so I'm not going to give it to you. And if I said that none of these characteristics are me, I would be very dishonest in that. Like I've experienced many of these things and I've had to learn to navigate through, and even still building trust with others, just with, I don't know, I have a lot of wild ideas. And so some of them I'm like, I don't know if a lot of people can handle the things that I'm going to bring to them. And I had an interview with somebody, and she was like, you are a two line in human design, like whatever thing that you're working on, like please send it out. So that's where the Digital Age series came from, is from her just saying, go and push it out into the world, go do the thing, like bring the information to the people, because that's what you're here to do. You've got some sort of talent or genius going on in there that needs to be shared. And so her kind of pushing me out, when originally I was like, I don't trust anybody to hear anything that I have to say, because it might come across as wild. It might come across as, some people might call it crazy. There's like a stigma that goes around, having these really outlandish ideas that are futuristic. So I find a lot of the time I'm ahead of trends, I'm ahead of information. And because you're going out and you're kind of this spearhead of some sort of idea or theory, sometimes that can make you feel really alone. So you might have some fear of being alone in that, and standing in your leadership ability to bring that to the team, bring that to the collective. So when trust is absent, everything has to be controlled. Control always is a poor substitute for connection. So you can't necessarily control everything. It's when that trust is absent, you are basically trading off for control. So think about that in your relationships. How much are you trying to control versus how much are you just trusting that people are going to do that? I can say that have a tendency to attempt to delegate things. And so I'll delegate something to somebody. And, when you get burned that they didn't pull through, or they sabotage because of their low trust level, and they're just like, oh, I'm just not going to do that. I've had people do that quite often. Then you start to like, oh, now I have to control that. Now I have to control that. And I think about one of my bosses, one of my managers. She she was like that. She couldn't say no. There was no boundaries. And so our department just got like littered on with all of these different tasks. Even though I was like, it's incomprehensible that we can even do a portion of this. Like I think we did a study on it, like an internal work study on our department of how many hours a week does it take for you to get your job done. And mine was like, it was crazy. It was like 80 or 90 hours for all of the tasks that they had us do. And I was there for, 50 hours average a week, trying to get this 80 to 90 hours of work done in that week. It was way too much. And thank you for sharing. We appreciate it. Enjoying the series, yes. I have somebody that just started listening to it, so I'm excited about that. But so here I am trying to pack this 80 to 90 hours of work that, our quality department determined that that's how much work it would be, into this 40 to 50 hour work week. And it was overwhelming. It was very difficult to manage. So she did not have the boundaries that it took to say, no, our department doesn't have the labor in order to do that. It was just yes to everything to be agreeable. And then, because of that, then like everything is control. Okay, now you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Now you figure out how to control it. And it was like passing down this energy. So, at the end, I just didn't trust her, and I had to leave being in her managerial authority because my system could not handle it. Like I literally burnt myself out to the point of where I was sitting at my computer looking at it, knowing I know how to do all the things, but I can't even lift my finger to type an email. Like my body was like literally shut down. It's like, no, you're not doing this. And then because of that, I stopped performing as well. And so, just be really conscious about what your body is saying. Be really present and trusting your system to say, if you keep doing this, your physical health is going to fail. If you keep doing this, these things are going to happen. So figure out how to instill that trust into yourself, to know what your limits are, and to know what to control and what to let go of. So surrender is going to be a beautiful thing in your life. And the moments that I do surrender are these huge bursts of brilliance and aha moments. So let's talk about trust as a strength. So we've talked about the deficits, but let's talk about the strength of it. So emotionally intelligent behavior as trust is concerned is having this open-hearted communication, meaning that you can say things that you know are true about your life and you're openly sharing it without fear of judgment, without fear of people leaving you, without fear of people attacking you for your ideas. You can have this open-hearted communication. The other thing that you're going to see is that when we're in tune and trusting our system, we'll have this emotional regulation during conflict. So when conflict presents itself, instead of trying to emotionally manage and like push those emotions down deep into the underworld, that you're able to feel the thing. So let's use an example. So let's say that my roommate comes up and he has some sort of conflict with me, and he says that you're not doing the dishes and I'm always having to do them. So now like I am unhappy. So an emotional manager is going to not respond in kind and say, well, you know what, like that's just what it is. They're not working in collaboration. So I could say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't agree to that. It's not something that I agree to. So avoiding that is kind of this shutdown response to it. But an emotionally regulated person might be, oh, initially, I can't believe he's coming to me with that. So it might be like a little bit of kind of this protection emotion. And then kind of this empathy might come through and say, you know what, he's right. Like, I need to do that. And so instead of holding in that conflict, I could respond by saying, you know what, like, I can see that my behavior is causing this issue, and, I will, work on doing a better job of keeping my dishes in the dishwasher. It's not a real situation. I'm just using this as an example. In fact, I am like a little bit of a clean freak. Not freak, but I like things clean and decluttered and like in their space. So having that emotional regulation is going to look a lot different than having dysregulation. So if I'm trying to manage and control and say, well, I do them on these days, and so I don't think that it's fair for you to ask me to do it on those days. Might be a way of responding to it, but just really thinking about how that makes you feel inside. So it might first come across as disgust. I can't believe he's bringing this issue up to me. Two, I can't believe he's like, having some sort of criticism about my behavior might come up as well. And then, you might start bringing up, oh, well, you don't take the garbage out and I take it out every week. So, let's figure this out. Hopefully, if you're in a roommate situation, you're laying out all of the responsibilities beforehand. But having that deep emotional regulation is going to be important. The other emotionally intelligent behavior that you can do is honoring both your own and another's limits. So you're building trust as a strength. You're honoring your own time. Hey, look, I only have this much time. I only have this much energy. I only have this much bandwidth to collaborate in the process, to give you, I can only give you a day every other week to hang out with you. And then looking at their limits and saying, you know what, I can see your limitations and I can appreciate that. And I still have some needs that need to be met, but I can honor that time with you or energy or whatever it is. The next one is having confidence and vulnerability. Now, we talked about vulnerability before, where if you're in this rigid role and you don't want to share your vulnerability, that is, you're demonstrating the inability to trust yourself, trust others. Whereas if you have confidence in your vulnerability, you know that, let's see, what one can I use about me? Because I've got lots of them. One of the things that I do is I tend to overgive and underreceive. However, when it comes to my own internal thoughts, yep, no energy for outside of work too. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I put myself in some precarious situations. So if I have, let's say I have this really new brilliant idea, and I'm I'm sitting with my new brilliant idea, but I'm not normally somebody that's going to share these new deep, intelligent, brilliant ideas with others because I don't trust them. So that's one way to look at it. Now, let's say I have my big, brilliant idea, and now I have confidence in myself that this big, brilliant idea is going to be well received by people. Although it comes with a certain level of vulnerability, I can say, okay, you know what? Despite what people say about my idea, I'm going to present it anyways. And the people that criticize it or that don't like it, like that's their own opinion. But I know that a majority of people are going to like that. So you're having a beautiful vulnerability with the public and having that confidence to stand in whatever inspirational message that you're delivering. So, inspirational leadership is also another emotionally, socially intelligent quality to have that is measured by the ISEI. So, it's the Social and Emotional Intelligence Institute. They're measuring that too, of how inspiring, how influential can you be. Are you going to be confident in your message, or if one criticism comes in, are you going to say, oh no? I mean, I have it all the time. What you doing? I'm talking about trust today. It's pretty fun. So hi Coleman Stats, I think that's how you say your name, I don't know. So when you're looking at having inspirational leadership, having internal confidence, and building trust, not just with yourself, but also with your audience. If you buckle from one person coming in and criticizing it, you don't trust yourself. But we can have this deep confidence in ourselves and deliver these vulnerable messages pretty easily when we do have confidence in that. All right. Then finally, emotionally intelligent behavior to demonstrate trust as a strength is being responsive instead of being reactive. So, responsive is taking in something. So, let's say you're at work and somebody says, hey, I need this. And you say, okay, thank you for sending that over. I can't get to it immediately, but I can get you a message by the end of the day. So that's a responsive way to interact with your team versus being reactive or non-active in this case. Like maybe you just ignore that because you're working on all these other things. So other ways of reacting could be, somebody is bringing something about your behavior to you, And it's kind of like in that defensive or manipulative communication we were discussing, instead of being responsive and saying, you know what, I really appreciate you being transparent and trusting me enough to bring this to me. Instead of that, you're going to say, that's not me. I'm going to be reactive. I'm not owning that. And I don't know why you're bringing it to me. The responsive energy is going to be a lot more palatable for the people that you're interacting with. We're almost done, and then we can talk about some other stuff. So trust as a strength, as we're looking at socially intelligent behavior, we're looking at collaborative leadership, meaning that you can manage a project, you can talk between these cross-functional teams clearly with confidence, and you can say no to things with confidence. You can say yes to things with confidence, knowing that you and your team are going to be able to handle whatever the thing that you're bringing to the table, that is brought to your table. People with high trust, they have clear agreements. They're clear, their energy is clear. I've demonstrated to you, these are the things that I'm looking for. So they make agreements. They say yes to the things that they can say yes to and know that their team can do it. And then they say no to things that they know they don't have the energetic capacity to do. And they do it in the spirit of collaboration. But also, these clear agreements are clear contracts with them. They follow through with them. You know that if you tell them that when they tell you yes, they know that you're going to do it. So there's follow through. There's this really deep level of trust with that individual. Socially intelligent people with high trust are also inclusive in their decision making. So you can have people, even in relationships. Let's use a relationship as an example. So let's say, back in the 50s, men made all the decisions. Women couldn't own anything, right? They couldn't own anything big, no assets. It was really difficult. I don't know if the 50s, maybe that's a good time where things started really changing. So the men, because they had all the decision-making power, made all the decisions for their wives. And there's not that inclusion that happens in, if you're going to make a decision, then, I'll use this example. I think this will be a little bit more clear. So there is a couple I know, and they make decisions together. So if they're getting a pet, they make that decision together. They meet together in this inclusive decision-making process. Now, let's say that one member said, okay, let's get a pet. We're going to get one of these animals that are available. And they tell that other person, oh, okay, the partner, okay, that's great. I love that. I agree to getting that. I really want a dog. Let's say that's a dog. I really want that dog. And then the other person decides to pull out without having that discussion. So that can cause a little bit of a conflict. Whereas if, all together, as from bit by bit, from decision to decision, that every person in that agreement had a part in the decision making, that is inclusive decision making. So they trust each other enough to look at both parties and make clear decisions for their family at the moment. Or maybe it's a team and it's like a group, you're hiring somebody, let's all be inclusive in the decision and before we go forward. So the other thing that these socially, that's how it's supposed to be, both have a say. Yeah, well, I mean, when a decision, I did a really interesting research paper on decision making, and I pulled from this New York Times article, and I think I talked about it in one of my digital series. But the interesting thing that I saw. So this New York Times article, it was she allowed generative AI. So it was a few different bots. I think there was like almost 24, she said 24 bots that she allowed to make decisions for her. So the decision making is actually a part of your cognitive function. It's a part of your cognitive functioning is to set a goal, and then do the research, make a plan, execute it, and then evaluate it. That's the decision making process. And so the interesting thing that happened with this lady that is looking at having all these generative AI chatbots making her decisions for her, it was for only a week. But at the end of the week, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be able to make decisions again. Like, I've been farming my decisions out, and it's been a little crushing for me. Like, she had it choosing her clothing, choosing what they ate, her and her family ate for the week, had it choosing what haircut to get, have it choosing what color to paint her office. Like all the decision making, she was farming out to the AI chatbots, a variety of AI chatbots. And the decision making process, what I learned from that was how like important it is to us as far as holding in our authenticity, holding in our individuality, creating our identities, and really like leaning into that. And I did share yesterday too about how that decision making is so closely tied to identity that I have a friend who like basically allowed his father to make all of his decisions for him, and it caused mental break. Like he is now has a DSM of disassociation, which is also known as schizophrenia. Like him not making those decisions seriously cracked his mind. It cracked it open. Like at a certain point, because he's farming out all of his decision making, and it doesn't hold his own identity, and is like the area of work that he was working in that his dad was kind of like ushering him into caused his mind to seriously crack. Like it was a psychic split through the mind, and now he's got voices in his head. It's like opened him up to this weird world. So when I say inclusive decision making, you're a part of that decision making process. If you're involved in the decision at the end and you're responsible for part of that decision in the end, you should be included in that decision making process. So if it's adding somebody onto your team, if it's choosing a roommate, choosing a partner, like make sure that if your kids are old enough that they know about the decision. If you're moving, make sure your children know about those decisions. If you're going on a vacation, all of these decisions that we have placed in our life, it's quite a bit, but we want to make sure that we're honoring the and that's what being inclusive is. It's just honoring all the people that are affected in that decision making process, in including them in that, having them help set the goal or do the research or whatever it is to make that decision happen. And then we'll talk about repair after rupture. So socially intelligent people, when there is a trust rupture, meaning that there's a blow up, there is some feelings of, we were talking about how groups can kind of create their own little subgroups. If there's any type of rupture in team cohesion, in that trust that you have with your team or your partnership or whatever it is, that there's an ownership of the rupture by either the leader or the socially intelligent person is going to say, you know what, like this has happened. We need to figure out how we're going to repair this. What does a solution look like, and can we repair it? And then finally, we'll look at emotional safety as a group priority. And so, what is emotional safety? It means being able to take in and share ideas and be confident that it's not going to be like shot down in that environment. So, if you're in a brainstorm, brainstorm. If and then do it in a way that is honoring each person's idea. Thank you for sharing that. You know, we're going to keep collecting these, and then we'll kind of meet out and figure out which ones we're going to do. So that is creating a trust within that collaborative group. Socially intelligent. Okay? Beautiful. Trust is not a guarantee that you will not be hurt. It is the willingness to stay in relationship with uncertainty. So we all have these uncertain moments that happen in our life. And in that uncertainty, you can kind of get lost in it, like, oh my gosh, now I don't know what to trust. But if you're working in a way that is emotionally and socially intelligent, meaning that you're not reacting, you're regulating, you're sharing your heart openly, you're sharing your ideas openly, that you have confidence in yourself, that is going to shine in a big way. It's this willingness to stay in relationship with uncertainty. So knowing that uncertainty is going to happen, and just it's not guaranteed that you won't be hurt, but being emotionally regulated, you could say, you know what, I feel hurt by that decision. I feel hurt by the way that you commented to me. And really standing in confidence in your vulnerability, in sharing the things that you need to share in order to not hold these shadow aspects of trust or holding distrust. So, attunement might be one of my favorite questions to ask in an interview. It's probably not a good one. It makes people feel really uncomfortable. But it tells me a lot about the organization. Is in my line of work, I've noticed how intense it can be. There's a lot of analyzing, a lot of logistics, a lot of this really deep masculine energy of analyzing and trying to get to the root of a problem. So, problem solving. So, how do you address people that can appear to be siloed in these realms? Like, how do you address and reconnect the group and reconnect them to the group? And it's a very potent question. It's a very deep thing, and it will tell you a lot about how the company itself runs itself emotionally and socially, what level of intelligence they have. I've gotten some pretty interesting responses from it. So it really shows you the attunement that the managerial staff, or maybe even just the staff in general, have with each other. Are they able to be present in the workplace? And if they're present, are they able to notice when somebody is starting to become siloed and interact with that to help them to shift into a direction where there is now again team collaboration? Oh my gosh, I see that you're really stressed out, that you've been working really hard on getting XYZ done. And, I acknowledge that. Is there anything that I can do to help you? A lot of people aren't comfortable with doing that, and or just taking that out of the environment. You notice these little micro shifts in somebody's behavior. I'll demonstrate attunement. So my attunement is so fire, so piercing, that one time I was working, my coworker came in, and his behavior was usually like a certain type of way, and on this day he came in and it was completely off. Like, there was something going on, and I knew it. I noticed that micro shift, and I couldn't even continue working. I had to stop what I was doing and go and have a chat with him. Hey, is everything okay? Do you need some support? Like, whatever the thing was. And so, because I was so present and I was so attuned with his behavior, I noticed that little micro shift. I notice it like really easily. I don't, I've got really high attunement. Um, so my social awareness in uh, my frequency, emotional frequency test is very high. My empathy is very high. So I have this really deep ability to notice those things. So you'll notice that trust just isn't trust. It's trust plus all of these other emotional competencies that you can have in your life. How to build trust. So attunement is one. The next one is congruence. And that is aligning your words and your tone and your behavior so that they're all performing in congruence, that it's all cohesive, that you're a strong pillar of trust. People will come and trust you. I have a lot of people that come in and they talk to me and they trust me with a lot of different information. I know a lot of people who are similar to this. They have these deep bonds of trust. And it's because their words match their actions, match their tone, match their behavior. And so there is a little bit of consistency in that because that alignment is there. That alignment is that consistency in them. The next piece is accountability. So imagine something happens at work that you were directly responsible but indirectly told to be doing that. Um, I had a boss, and my boss had, so we were all doing, I was just a buyer, so I was just issuing purchase orders, and we have a purchase limit. So let's say the purchase limit is $50,000. Like above $50,000, the manager has to come in and approve that because their approval limit is higher. So let's say $50,000 is the number. And so it wasn't me, it was my other buyer would be issuing all of these purchase orders for above $50,000, and he had to go in and approve it. And she ended up leaving, or maybe she was still there, but my co-buyer, she was responsible for issuing these orders. She was responsible for dictating the supplies that go into that order. And so she was the one that had her name assigned on that. But then on top of that, you have this pre-authorized signature from our manager. It wasn't me, it was our manager. And we're talking about accountability here, okay? So push comes to shove, at the end of the day, she ordered way too many of certain products that we never used. And in accountability, his signature, my boss's signature, was on the order, but he blamed her for making an error. And I had to point out to him and say, you know what? Yeah, she may have made an error, but your signature signed off that what she was ordering was okay. You didn't even look at what you were approving. You want to have accountability, but you don't want to own the mess of what it is to be accountable after making poor decisions. And so building trust means that even when your name is on something, that you own it. You're always owning it, okay? So that'll help build trust. Next is boundaries. So boundaries is being able to say yes and have the integrity of knowing that when you say yes, that thing is going to be done, versus being able to confidently say no and not be guilty for not helping or saying no to something. It's okay to say no. No is a sacred word. It's so sacred. It's like one of the most sacred words, if not the most sacred. So you say no without guilt. You say yes with integrity. You want to build trust with others. You're going to not try to parse yourself out. you do it knowing that you're going to be able to follow through with it. So the other piece is, if you're in repair mode of building trust, you want to do so without, you don't want to just have an apology or an I'm sorry to rebuild that trust. It's gonna take a little bit more understanding. Maybe you have to have a little bit longer conversation with whomever it is on the other side, so that you're developing this really strong relationship with them of, I want to understand more so that I can make sure that I don't repeat the offense in the future. And then consistency, again, is just showing up the same way time and time again. That's going to help you build trust. If you're making a phone call to somebody, knowing that they're going to pick up or respond within a certain period of time, that is consistency. That is presence. Okay? So trust isn't just these grand gestures. It's something that's built up over time. Like, it's building up slowly through showing up, through being present, through consistency, through all of these beautiful aspects. We talked about attunement, congruence, accountability, boundaries, being able to repair it. So we want to be integrating these things over time into our relationships with others, so that we are building a strong trust bond with them. I'm at 14%, so we'll see how long I can go. I've been going for an hour. It's pretty good. All right. So early on, I was talking about how trust is this framework. So if we're looking at a chalice, let's look at our frame. So this glass here is this beautiful frame, right? And the liquid in here is all of the energy that I can pour into it. And it has an ability to, it doesn't have any leaks in it, so it has an ability to contain itself and to grow and expand. And so that's trust, is being able to hold all of that stuff together. Now, if it ruptures, you're going to need to rebuild all of that trust back. There doesn't necessarily need to be any shame spiraling that goes into that. People break trust all the time in life. And so it really is coming back to I'm owning that, and then I'm earnestly rebuilding that trust. We want to give people second chances, and some people want to keep on giving people millions of second chances. But let's look at how we're going to honor ourselves as we go into that. So this is for people rebuilding trust in yourself. Okay. Healing from betrayal. Betrayal is a deeply painful feeling that can harm whatever trust that you had. So let's say that you're married to somebody and then all of a sudden they betrayed you, and now you're having to heal from that. But now, like, your trust in others is weakened or softened because now somebody that you trusted betrayed you, and now you don't know how to heal from that. Betrayal is a horribly terrible feeling, and overcoming that is going to be a really strong, how can I trust myself when I made that decision to be around that person. Again, rebuilding trust is repairing relationships. So repairing relationships, and how well you can do that, and the integrity that you hold when you're rebuilding these relationships, is going to be important. And then learning to open up again. So remember, we talked about open heart communication being this really strong way of showing people that you are trustworthy, that trusting in you is going to be valuable. So trust is the architecture of belonging, and we are laying these trust brick by brick. We're laying out our wall of trust. we're trying to build, maybe we're building a tower, and we need to be laying these brick by brick. So we're just doing these small, consistent actions over time. So trust rupture, I kind of talked a little bit about it, is when words don't match your actions. That can be a situation where trust is broken, when safety is dismissed. So maybe you go and say, I don't feel safe by doing this, and somebody's like, oh, well, I don't care, do it anyways. That that will make you question, can I trust this person with my safety? And remember, we were talking about how the central nervous systems, they're calibrating, and they're correlating with each other. And so we want to be safe in our system, we want to feel the safety in another system, and so we want to have that. And if that is ruptured, then we're looking at what that looks like. So the other piece is when presence is abandoned. So abandonment can feel like a trust rupture. So, that presence is really important. Are you going to show up when you say you're going to show up? If you say you're going to call, are you following up in integrity with making that phone call? Or are you too broken yourself and too spread out yourself from not being able to say no and saying yes to everything? So you're looking at these different aspects. So when boundaries are ignored is another place. So boundaries are so important to have established within your own system and also with others. So when a boundary is ignored, let's say you say, you know, like, I need to, I need you to follow through when you say you're going to do something. When you don't say when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, it triggers a lack of safety in my system. I feel unsafe. That's a boundary, okay? So making sure that you're holding strong to those boundaries. So, and then the other thing to remember is this is not just about your relationship with others. This is emotional and social intelligence. So emotional intelligence is knowing this within yourself, knowing it, knowing that trust can be broken in yourself. You can self-abandon. You can self-sabotage. You can do all these things to yourself in this really deep shadow aspect unless you're aware of what is going on and you're listening to others and you're getting that feedback and you're taking it in earnestly. The next piece, and then we'll talk about rebuilding, and then I'm going to pop off, is the trust. When the trust is broken, we're going to talk a little bit about the nervous system shifting. So the nervous system is going to shift into survival mode, and there's 4 different ways that it can do this. So one is fight, and that might come through as rage or revenge or even control. These are all fighting mechanisms that you can do when your nervous system is broken with trust. And this is, in your inner world or your outer world. The next piece is flight. So disconnection with yourself, ghosting, or shutting down are all flight mechanism responses to an emotional fallout or that broken trust response. Your nervous system is going to shift into that when it's in flight mode. So fawning, we talked about it before, is overgiving or self-blame, overgiving and trying to please give me your trust, please give me your attention, please give me your devotion. I'm going to overgive to you in order for you to see how good I am and that you're going to be able to trust me, or even blaming yourself. So the emotional fallout, the trust got broken, and now it's because I did that to myself, right? And then freeze can show up as numbness or helplessness. So if you're in a freeze response to trust, it's going to show up in your nervous system. These are biological and spiritual responses to your world. It could be your inner world, it could be your exterior world, okay? Your body is going to keep the trust score. You know, we talked about that balloon, but your body, your nervous system is noticing, and you cannot logic your way into this. It really is like deepening into your emotions, figuring out what you've got to do, facing it with confidence, and getting over these nervous system survival mechanisms. And then finally, to conclude today's broadcast, we're going to talk about the pillars of rebuilding trust. We talked a little bit about them already, but I just want to reintegrate them into your memory if you're still listening, is to with rebuilding trust, it's not about returning to the person that you were. Because the person you were before is like, they're stuck in that timeline, right? You're not able to go back in time and become that person again. In the rebuilding trust, as we're doing this, we're looking at becoming somebody new. And it's okay to be reborn, and you've got to have trust in that rebirth process, right? So the things that you want to look at is that presence, is to be where your body is. So really just be present with yourself. Consistency, and if you're going to be sitting in consistency, you want to have integrity. That when you say what you're going to do, you do it, and you do it again and again and again, and you keep consistent with it. And this can show up if you're, let's say you have your own business and you're supposed to be showing up. So every week I come on and I deliver these broadcasts. And that is my consistency, saying I'm going to be consistent by showing up, whether or not there's an audience, and delivering a message, even if it's just me talking to myself for an hour and a half or however long it is. It doesn't matter. I'm demonstrating consistency. I'm showing myself that it is okay to be consistent, and that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. The next one is transparency. So saying the quiet parts out loud. So when you feel that that vulnerability might be scary, it's overcoming that and being confident in that vulnerability and showing up and being transparent, being able to say the things that need to be said. Okay. The next one is accountability. It doesn't matter if it's, reaping in the rewards, or if it's owning the hard things. Like, being accountable is possibly, it's going to show your team that you have integrity. Next is boundaries. So honor yours and respect others' boundaries. So whatever your boundaries are, honor those. Whatever their boundaries are, respect them. Figure out how to communicate if there is some sort of disruption that you think that needs to be discussed. So having the strong boundaries, and then repair. So instead of just burning the bridge, walking away, go to the rupture and figure out, how am I going to resolve this situation? And that helps you to build trust. Okay? Mm-hmm. I feel like I've gone over all the information quite a bit, and I am at 9% battery. So I am going to conclude today's discussion. Thank you so much. I can't believe next week is going to be episode 30. So hopefully I can see some of your beautiful faces. I'll return back to my normal. Today I had a interview at 10:30, so it kind of disrupted my normal process, but I appreciate you guys for joining. My name is Amelie. You've been listening to the Soulestic Intelligence podcast. And today we were talking about building trust, a little bit more detail into what that looks like, some deficits, some behaviors, of what that looks like and how you can build it or rebuild it if you need to. And I hope this was a valuable transmission for you. Thank you again for watching, for liking, and subscribing. I really appreciate it. It helps to build my algorithm. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And if I don't see you, happy 4th of July. Love you.